Hello guys, what's good? I know it's been a while, but today we're going to react to John Moxley coming back to WWE. That by video made by Murphs one YT130. Now, if you all don't know who John Moxley is, he's AEW's favorite homeboy, one of AEW's favorite talents, formerly known as Dean Ambrose. So let's see how this video goes.
33 chains, ocean now, cruising Biscayne, hit from the top up, that's a liability, hit the gas, boosting my ability, Percocet, yeah, Molly Percocet, big fun, Percocet, yeah, Molly Percocet, big fun, represent, yeah, gotta represent, gang, gang, chase a chick, yeah, never chase a bitch, mask on, yeah, fuck it, mask on, big fun, mask on, yeah, fuck it, mask on, big fun, Percocet, yeah, Molly Percocet, big fun, chase a chick, yeah, never chase a bitch, chase no shit, photo baby, I drive anything, yeah, buy my range, yeah, make them go.
This video goes.
WrestleMania 43. Bron Breakker finally breaks out and destroys the man who took him under his wing and maintains his well over year-long reign, and not only takes out his mentor in Rollins indefinitely, but he takes his wise man. And Breakker has finally reached his full potential, and Heyman says that he only backs winners. And now that they've buried the Tribal Chief, built a grave for the architect, Bron is going to be the most unscripted and violent beast he's ever had. And there isn't a shield on earth capable of stop. But it's then a bizarre vignette plays, and it's an old clip of the Shield, with one face in particular blurred out, and then
We all
it
know
stops.
who that is.
But it only stops because Bronson Reed is now here, and he wants blood and a title shot. Heyman also turned his back on him when he aligned solely with Breakker, and it's on. But the brawl ends with Bronson Reed hitting Breakker with a familiar move. And Heyman, knowing full well that every action has a reaction, uses Backlash as the perfect stage to fully unleash his new beast. And he does. Breakker is unscripted and he's violent and he takes it to a whole other level. And despite a tough fight, Reed is decimated in a haze of violence. However, there's a mystery onlooker in the stands and it gets minds wandering. But it clearly wasn't the man who most thought it would be. Of course, being the wise man, he hears about it and he sees the footage and he says that whoever's lurking in the shadows is best not to reveal themselves, because the moment
This person's really good at storytelling. Like,
that spotlight shines on them, they become a target for the most unscripted and violent man in wrestling, who on his command will demolish anyone in his path. But he says that they aren't hard to find. Just ask Bronson Reed, Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. However,
Wow,
despite the
took all
warning,
of them
another
down.
challenge arises, and it's a big one. Jacob Fatu wants to step up, and Heyman looks concerned because he knows exactly the kind of threat that he poses, and he sees it firsthand from ringside as Breakker's title reign comes under severe threat, which takes us all the way to Money in the Bank, where they collide. And once again, Heyman draws out the animal in Breakker. But it's as this match is going on, the mysterious figure watches on once again from the darkest part of the arena, and this time, not alone. But what they watch is destruction, but in a different way.
ooh,
The match gets blown apart by Roman Reigns. A man Breakker wiped out constantly over the last couple of years, and a man who Heyman also betrayed. And it's clear that Roman never forgets, and he's hammering Breakker. However, another man who will struggle to forget it is Jacob Fatu, who was cost the match by Reigns, and he drops him on the spot, stunning everyone, including Heyman.
I mean, no way Jacob Fatu would solo Roman Reigns in a real fight now. There's no way.
Who instructs Breakker to follow him and get the hell out of the way. But the threat being diverted won't always be the case, and Heyman knows it. He knows that the walls are closing in, but he also knows a little bit more about the men who are watching the destruction at Money in the Bank. And with Roman Reigns now fully occupied with another civil war heading towards SummerSlam, he wants to smoke out who the next threat will be. But perhaps they won't even need to be smoked out, because on the Tron we see another not-so-subtle video. The crowd erupts. They know exactly what that was.
Even me, but how does he do it with all this video? I know it's WWE 2K25, but how? How? Even with the former Dean Ambrose entrance, like I literally, even though it was blood, I literally heard the entrance.
And Heyman somewhat looks concerned, but Breakker looks excited. He's enticed by the potential fight. However, it might not be for a world title, because the next challenger for that nails him with a GTS. It's CM Punk, who's yet to hold the World Championship again since he was screwed out of it by Heyman and his goons, sees this and Saturday night's main event as his chance to get it back. And like everyone else who has stepped up, Heyman accepts the challenge and lets his beast loose again. And the youth being on Breakker's side really shows. Punk isn't getting any younger, but he is just as gritty as he's ever been. And he takes the fight head on. He's never been afraid to throw hands with anyone, especially when it comes to being the best in the world. But he uses his nous and manages to fire up a devastating GTS. But instead of going down, Breakker, with his last piece of energy, bounces off the ropes and spears him. And now they're both down. And it's the more youthful Breakker who is able to crawl desperately to try and make the cover before again he gets dropped. But this time, it's Rollins. It's another ghost from the past, and once again, right on the cusp, the match has ended, and Rollins is all over Breakker. He's desperately to get at the man who...
I mean, do you all see that how the Bronze betrayed Seth Rollins on what's it called, on WWE Raw?
Him. But not only that, get at the man who orchestrated his downfall. But as he's about to go at Paul, he gets pulled in a different direction and leveled with a GTS by Punk, who, much like Fatu with Roman, is pissed that he got involved. And all over again, we see the hate-filled rivalry resume, even years after it started. However, watching all of this unfold is two men, one of which people are very confident they know,
It's
but the
John
other,
Moxley.
not so much. And we arrive on Raw, and Heyman, knowing Rollins and Reigns are taken care of by Punk and Fatu, looks further into just who this looming duo are, and he demands that they
Now, I need these measures not just to protect me from you people and whatever diseases you may all be carrying. I need these measures to protect me from that madman.
Ominous music. The ominousness.
is furious. He's
Excuse my English, but the cliffhangers and ominousness. But the storytelling just makes sense. This is how he should return if he wants to, because he's doing perfectly well in AEW.
seen enough, and he breaks the silence on naming him. John, I know it's you. That's right, I said it, and I'll say it again. John, enough of the bullshit games. You're a fighter, and Bron Breakker is a fighter. So now it's time to fight. Oh, and whoever you're with, I want to talk to you too. Heyman is full of fight, full of vigor, and the moment is drawing closer. You can feel it in the air. But as Heyman and Breakker get back to their now-defaced locker room, there is a note, and it's addressed to Heyman. And it reads, "Next week, just you and I, Paul." And it's signed, a much wiser man. Heyman furiously storms out, but Breakker is just looking at the defaced screen, knowing that the threat is probably closer than they even realise. And the tension ramps up even more when Heyman is advised to meet in an official interview setting for his face-to-face with this so-called much wiser man. And as he takes his position, the man walks in and Heyman scoffs and he seems a little bit rattled. But the other man has refused to be on camera, so we can only go off Heyman's reaction. He says,
keeping the anonymous.
"You weren't kidding. Much wiser indeed." But even the wisest minds make mistakes, and you've made your very first one by showing me who you are. You stepped into the spotlight, and now you're a target. X marks the spot, right? Well, it's firmly on you. And on my command, we will hunt you down because we are in control, my friend. But the soft voice from the other side of the room says, "You like to control, Paul. I like to unleash." And he will be unleashed. Quicker than you think, my friend. Heyman, knowing exactly who it is, won't say anything, but he likely won't have to, because the threat and the arrival is closer than ever as we approach.
Okay, this is making me angry now, cause which one, like, again, Jacob Fatu will not solo Roman Reigns in a fight.
Slam, but things couldn't be any closer to boiling point because spot fires start all over Raw, with Roman and Fatu brawling on the stage. Rollins and Punk are fighting at ringside, and it all breaks out in the middle of Paul Heyman and Bron Breakker's segment, and they just enjoy the sight around them. But as the spot fires burn, little did they know the spot fires are about to turn into a blazing, out of control inferno. Because the fights end up in the ring with Roman and Seth cleaning house, but they don't see Bron Breakker lining him up, and he's gonna strike. But then the flames engulf WWE.
There he is. Wow. All I'm gonna say is absolute cinema. This is how you should return. Holy shit. Holy.
As electric a moment as we've ever seen, but it doesn't last because they all immediately separate and go after their own individual rivals. But Moxley is clearly not the man he was when he left. He's unhinged, unscripted, and violent.
And
he pulls out the most
disdain for
insane-looking weapon
authorities.
and walks Bron Breakker down the ramp with it, setting the tone for everything. And Breakker gets out of dodge and waits for his moment to strike, but that moment does arrive several times in the weeks to come, because they go back and forth trying to turn up the violence, and they do it in the ring but also at ringside. But it's not always even in the arena either. And it completely hijacks every single show they're on, even far as busting apart completely unrelated matches with any kind of weapon they could get their hands on. And it threatens to ruin everything, but Moxley doesn't care. And Paul confronts Triple H and Adam Pearce, wanting to know if Moxley is even signed, let alone being held accountable. And Triple H says he is signed, and it was negotiated by his special counsel, which makes Heyman furious, but also makes him brace for more chaos. And they get chaos in Bron Breakker's allotted time on the show, because he and Moxley are no longer allowed in the same building at the same time. However, the self-proclaimed much wiser man is. Heyman wants to talk, but he doesn't show. However, his presence is still felt because while he doesn't show up, Moxley does. And he breaks all the rules put in place by management again. He couldn't care less, and he's unhinged again, and he flies off the handle. And it's clear that the man...
There's a reason why they call John Moxley unscripted violence.
Heyman was calling out as outsmarted him, and he snuck Moxley in before management put security in place. And it's during this fight that Breakker makes the challenge. He wants Moxley at SummerSlam for the world title, and he doesn't want any rules. He wants to end him, and the crowd loves it. It's what they truly want. But it's while management look on in disgust, Moxley cracks Breakker across the ribs with a barbed wire baseball bat. And then he fires off on every member of security that has been sent down to deal with him. And Heyman is furiously arguing with Triple H and Adam Pearce. He's telling them to get things under control. But it's then Moxley approaches, and of course Heyman dips out. But Triple H just says, "Are you serious, Moxley? We bring you back, and this is what you do. This isn't at all what we agreed." And Moxley doesn't have words. He just has a gesture for his boss. This isn't the same man who was here years ago. This is unhinged, unscripted John Moxley, and he walks out of the building to a huge ovation with a title match at SummerSlam. And now, naturally, attention turns to the man who is orchestrating all of this and setting the anarchy free. Well, Moxley gives us an insight on the eve of SummerSlam when he throws a pile of clothes from his past in a trash can.
Okay.
You ever hear the one about the prodigal son? He
Yes.
comes home. They throw a big party. Everybody's happy he's back. Yeah, that ain't me. I didn't come back here to shake hands. I didn't come back here to play nice. I came back here to kill off the last ghosts of who I used to be. You see this in this trash? This is Dean Ambrose you remember. The lunatic fringe, the goofy jacket, the scripted punchlines, the dumbass jokes. Dean Ambrose is dead. The Shield is dead, and Jon Moxley has never been more alive.
Bro just listed all of his reasons why he left, because in real life that's the reason why he left. The main reason is because he didn't get enough opportunities and creative differences, and AEW offers a lot of creative control that WWE does not. But honestly, I wish this storyline was real because I really wanted to see Jon Moxley come back, but he's also good in AEW.
Jon Moxley doesn't take orders from anyone. Not Hunter, not Pierce, not Paul Heyman. Not even the man who brought me back to WWE. The much wiser man, yeah, he sure is. And he knows just how dangerous I can be. But Paul, you say Braun Breaker is unscripted. Well, considering where you come from, that surprises me. But
Oh,
now
yeah, man,
you're a
and
suit.
ECW.
And that's the whole problem. The reason I'm back is to burn those scripts. And if Braun Breaker is the fire starter, then so be it. No disqualification, no rules, no script, and they demolish each other right out of the gate. This one gets ugly, and ugly fast. They're in the crowd, they're on the stage. But it's as the match gets into its final stages, the Oracle wants to protect his asset. His winner, as he stated months ago, and he distracts Moxley, and Breaker nails him in the back and knocks him down, and now
Shit.
sets up a table in the corner,
Uses his
and he's
signature
going to
weapon
end it
against
just
him.
like he did Rollins at WrestleMania. And he runs off, but Moxley moves, and Breaker crashes through the table. But Moxley is still hurt, and they're both down, so Heyman needs to act, and he goes to grab a chair, just like he has before. But there's a foot on it, and Heyman looks up and realizes it's William Regal.
William Regal. I've seen this guy this guy jump ships everywhere, like he owns the places, the two places. Cause I've seen him. He's in AEW, he's in WWE NXT, he's in AEW, he's in place this that this. This guy really just comes anytime he goes. Like William Regal, I've heard of this guy's name.
The man behind the madness
seen
of
him on
Moxley,
NXT.
and he laces Heyman with a shot to the jaw, and then casually picks up the chair. But he has a second thought, and he says no. He throws the chair down because he has something else, and he hands Moxley brass knuckles, and Moxley, with the little energy that he has left, rocks Breaker in the jaw, and then he lifts him up and drops him with a paradigm shift on the rubble. And Moxley cleanses himself of his past in WWE, and with Regal freeing the madness of Moxley, the reign of manufactured villains ends here, and the era of unscripted begins.
Anyway, if you enjoyed that video, please like, share, and subscribe. But answer me one question: the way that Jon Moxley bleeds, any little thing, any hit he takes, he just bleeds all over the match. I know it's just to make the match intense, but I feel like you should take it easy. But again, WWE should make their matches more hardcore and entertaining, because WWE is really going down the slumps with their ratings. Anyway, peace and love. Bye.